welcome back to Max Reaction. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're doing good. Let me know how you're doing down below. For now, we're going to react to another video on the Philippines, and this is Mount Pinatubo Eruption. It happened in 1991, but I hear that's the cause of maybe why Clark Air Force Base no longer runs there. I don't know. Let's check it out. Let's react to this, and I'm gonna learn a lot because I don't know hardly anything about it. I just know it was by Clark, and I've heard people say that's the reason it closed down. Not sure, but let's check it out.
Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines erupted on the 15th of June 1991 at 1:42 p.m. local time. The eruption lasted for 9 hours.
9 hours.
The volcano is approximately 90 kilometers northwest of the capital city, Manila. The island of Luzon, where Mount Pinatubo is located, has 13 active volcanoes, which are part of the chain of
wow.
volcanoes. The eruption stands as the second largest eruption in the 20th century. Mount Pinatubo stands at 1,760 meters high. In 1991, the eruption caused the original crater to collapse and form a new, deeper caldera 2.5 kilometers wide.
Look at that.
High levels of precipitation caused a lake to form in this crater.
Wow.
During the eruption, the volcano shot sulfur dioxide 40 kilometers into the atmosphere.
Look at that.
The cloud mixed with water vapor encircled the globe in 22 days, temporarily offsetting the effects of global warming. The sulfur dioxide cloud deflected 2% of the Earth's incoming solar radiation and lowered temperatures worldwide on average by 0.4 to 0.5 degrees Celsius.
Anytime something blows up and it lowers the world temperature, you know it's big, you know it's impressive, you know it's on a huge, huge scale. And it happened in the Philippines. There's so much history that's happened in the Philippines of this world, it's insane, it's a lot.
90% of the material released from the volcano was ejected during the 9-hour eruption. The volcanic eruption was not the only disaster to hit the Philippines. A typhoon passed 75 kilometers to the northeast of Mount Pinatubo,
wow,
causing a large amount of rainfall in the region. Many of those who died were not killed by the eruption, but by diseases which spread in the aftermath of both the eruption and the typhoon. Had the typhoon not been nearby, the death toll would have been much lower. There were several precursors to the eruption, which allowed for planning and evacuations to take place. This meant that thousands of people were saved and the death toll lowered.
Thank God.
This major eruption occurred in a country with a shaky economy, and the human effects are likely to be significant for a long period of time. Economic growth was weakened by the eruption and development halted.
The Philippines, where Mount Pinatubo is located, has an extensive history of volcanic eruptions. This is due to the Philippines being home to a variety of very active volcanoes. Here are a history of similar volcanic eruptions that have occurred within the Philippines. Example number 1 is the Mayon volcano in the Philippines, which had its most destructive eruption on February 3rd, 1814. The most eruption killed 1,200 people. The volcano had a plinian blast, which is the most violent type of eruption possible, as they produce ash falls, lava bombs, and throw volcanic rock for miles.
Impressive.
This eruption was seen as destructive in terms of the number of casualties and the distance that the volcanic hazard reached from the crater. Tao volcano is a complex volcano on the island of Luzon.
Tao?
It erupted on January 30th,
that's sad.
Killing around 1,500 people.
1,500
millions of
dead.
Damage occurring. Post-mortem exams show that the majority of those died was due to the scalding steam or being scalded by mud. This eruption destroyed most of the life on the island.
Most of the life dead.
An eruption that occurred worldwide that was similar to the Mount Pinatubo eruption was the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambor in Indonesia. It was the largest known eruption of the last millennium. It blasted 50 cubic meters of rock high into the atmosphere, leaving an 8-kilometer wide caldera.
Look at that crater.
The volcanic debris in the upper atmosphere.
It's amazing.
Sunlight back and resulted
beautiful
in
now.
This is similar to the Mount Pinatubo eruption, as they both affected the climate. It was estimated that 200,000 people worldwide were killed by the eruption.
200,000?
That were caused as a result from widespread crop failure.
Mount Pinatubo is a stratovolcano. A stratovolcano is a composite volcano built by the accumulation of stratified layers of lava and pyroclast over time due to previous eruptions of the volcano. Mount Pinatubo sits on the destructive plate boundary between the Eurasian plate and the Philippine plate. The volcano is slightly offset from the actual plate.
Is it Ring of Fire?
Since the Philippine plate is oceanic, it is being subducted below the Eurasian plate, which is continental. When the plate is subducted, this causes the plates to melt due to the high temperature within the Earth, and in which the plate turns to molten magma
and is forced away because of the high pressure exertion.
Very educational.
This will eventually resurface as the density of the molten magma becomes lower than that of the rock and pushes up through the small cracks, resulting in an eruption.
Lots of pressure.
Prior to the eruption in 1991, Mount Pinatubo had no serious activity for over 500 years.
Wow.
However, there were various precursors that showed a potential eruption was about to occur.
Earthquakes?
As on July 10th, 1990, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck 60 miles northeast of Mount Pinatubo, which resulted in the Earth's crust beneath the volcano being squashed and shaken. This resulted in a landslide at the volcano, and scientists stated there was an increase in local earthquakes and a short-lived increase in steam emissions from the already existing geothermal areas.
Scary.
But at this moment in time, the volcano was still seen as undisturbed.
Really?
However, at the start of March 1991, it was clear that an eruption was imminent. In March through to April, the magma was rising towards the surface of the volcano from depths of 20 miles beneath the volcano,
20 miles
triggering
below.
small earthquakes that resulted in powerful steam explosions that blasted 3 craters on the north flank of the volcano. From April to early June, swarms of small earthquakes were occurring beneath the volcano, also resulting in rising sulfur levels. In which, on the 7th of June and onwards, there was a dramatic increase in the earthquakes, with over 1,500 earthquakes a day recorded. On June 12th, it was noted by scientists that magma had reached the surface of the volcano, and since the volcano had already emitted lots of the gas it contained, the magma had oozed out, forming a lava dome. But still, no eruption had occurred.
It's building, I
Finally,
guess.
on July 15th, 1991, the second most powerful eruption of the 20th century occurred, in which 12 million cubic meters of magma had reached the surface. The eruption created large ash clouds that rose up to 22 miles into the atmosphere and grew up to 300 miles across in width.
300 miles across. Think about that. That is vast.
The Mount Pinatubo eruption has been named as the second largest eruption of the 20th century. During the eruption, roughly 10 billion tons of magma was ejected onto the surrounding landscape, along with millions of tons of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. The ash cloud produced injected particles into the global wind system. Average temperatures worldwide decreased by up to 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Decreased.
This was due to the
1.5
tiny
Celsius.
particles of ash reflecting sunlight away from the Earth. The sulfur dioxide emitted by the volcano mixed with water and oxygen in the atmosphere, ultimately creating sulfuric acid.
Is this how the dinosaurs died back
contributing to
then?
the destruction of the ozone layer.
Maybe.
Alongside this, pyroclastic flow deposits flowed into valleys. With Typhoon Yanya hitting at the same time as the eruption, heavy mud flows were generated, which rained down onto densely populated areas.
Mud flows.
This contributed to the deaths caused by collapsing roofs.
That's so sad.
The eruption
Typhoon
of
and a
Mount
hurricane.
Pinatubo caused 847 fatalities, many of which occurred in evacuation centres owing to acute respiratory infections. With a total of $700 million in damages, this includes the disruption caused to electricity and transport links. For example, the closure of 7
look at
airports,
that.
including Nino, Aquino,
Do you see that? Look, it's basically looks like dirty snow, you know, if you've ever seen snow. I know a lot of people in the Philippines hasn't, but it looks like snow that's been dirty and it's covering everything. And you're breathing that in, getting infections, people are dying. It's just horrible, horrific.
International Airport for 4 days resulted in immediate economic decline. Economic growth was also slowed due to major resources being diverted to relief and recovery. 1.2 million homes were lost, forcing migration to shanty towns in Manila.
Look at that,
Rainfall
buried.
from Typhoon Ayunga caused buildings to fall down. The destruction of 700 school buildings displaced 236,700 pupils, resulting in disruption to education.
Wow.
Lahars during rainy season caused fatalities, damages to crops, infrastructure and economic activity in Luzon. 8 major river systems were clogged by the lahars, resulting in water contamination, severe riverbank erosion, and bridges being undercut.
Flooding.
Lahars and falling ash destroyed farmland and ruined the harvest, making it unusable for years, and caused 650,000 people to lose their jobs, causing a decline in income, along with
Resilient
negative impacts
people.
on the social conduct of the areas affected.
Filipinos are resilient.
The
They're
location of the
strong-minded.
Philippines in the tropics mean it is naturally vulnerable to multiple environmental disasters, in addition to human factors and the community's capacity to cope with such environmental stress. The Philippines is situated within the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is an area of subduction where the Philippine plate, the denser of the two, sinks below the Eurasian plate. This makes the Philippines vulnerable to volcanic eruptions and earthquakes.
Yes.
Mount Pinatubo had been dormant for 500 years prior to the 1991 eruption, allowing vegetation to cover its slopes. The nutrient-rich earth encouraged a population to grow of around 1 million people.
Wow.
The settlements were
Moving
built
closer to
surrounding
it.
the slopes of Pinatubo, along with the largest US military base in the Philippines. The slopes around Pinatubo had mostly been created by lahars from previous volcanic eruptions. Scientists from the US Geological Survey and the Philippines Institute of Volcanology and Seismology deducted that lahars would flow down the slopes during the next eruption. Lahars can change the environment they pass through and cause severe damage to anything that comes within their path.
It's so scary to think about and live by, you know? It really is.
The Mount Pinatubo eruption had a significant impact on the people of the Philippines, particularly the Pasig Potrero River Basin. This area is one of the most densely populated provinces of the country. The eruption triggered lahars, killing 300 people due to roofs collapsing, and also massively affected tens of thousands of families.
And the
42,000
food, you
people
know?
had to be relocated into
Crops.
resettlement areas. However, there was still a threat to them, as often the areas they were located to were still subjected to lahars and floods. In fact, 101 of the 206 evacuation centres in operation in the Pampanga region were not safe.
Wow.
These relocation centres had conditions that were often very difficult to live in, meaning that inhabitants preferred to return to their homes in villages that still faced the threat of lahars after the eruption. As well as social losses, the eruption caused an economic loss that totaled $1 billion by 2000.
Back then, too, you
Early
know?
evacuation of the population most at risk started in April 1991. A 6-mile radius danger zone was placed around the volcano to see most at risk.
That saved lives, you know, evacuating early.
The indigenous people of the
Oh, he's
Ayutthaya
running,
Island,
look at him.
a
Wow.
population of 20,000, were safely evacuated before the eruption.
Look at that. It's so... it's going fast, too. Look at it. Holy crap. That's a nightmare right there, you know?
Government agencies mobilized their facilities such as schools and hospitals and personnel, medical, social workers, teachers to give vital services in specific evacuation centers. The National Coordinating Council got military to immediately respond after the eruption to help with the evacuation.
You gotta help the people. You have to. We're all humans. We need to be
The
one.
Department of Health led in the medical aspects of the evacuation and rehabilitation.
Long-term
Around
effects.
23 metric tons of sulfur dioxide was injected into the stratosphere, which cooled the troposphere and warmed the lower stratosphere, causing a temporary drop in global temperatures of 1 degree Fahrenheit until 1993.
Wow.
Volcanic mud
Couple
flows,
years.
known as lahars, resulted in silted waterways, which caused flooding and the isolation of many small villages. The flooding caused widespread devastation to all kinds of property. This caused division between the poorer people and the richer people, who were all affected in the same way, but could not all cope in the same way. Government plans to divert lahars were met with widespread opposition. Diverting would save some areas from flooding, but would increase the chance of flooding in other areas. Further tension rose between neighbouring communities who both wanted to protect where they lived.
Well, yeah. Survival, you know?
Psychological effects rose from the events of the lahars, such as post-traumatic stress disorder. People believed what they saw was the end of the world, and said it was enough to frighten the people into immediate escape.
It would seem that way.
The displacement of more than 10,000 families resulted in high economic costs of around $93 million for evacuation, settlement sites, and caring for the evacuees, with further costs from damage to crops, infrastructure and personal property. The loss of businesses and infrastructure meant thousands of people had no source of income for long periods of time. The evacuation camps used for displaced persons were found to have inadequate water sources and shelters. This led to a further 350 deaths by measles, diarrhea and respiratory infections.
So many people
The
lost.
destruction of over 700 school buildings caused the displacement of around 200,000 pupils and 7,000 teachers. With unused school buildings being used as evacuation centres, there was no safe place for children to be educated.
It affected
This
everything.
meant that children would not be taught what to do in the event of another natural disaster, increasing the risk for the future.
Lessons learned.
Overall, there has been very little changes within the Philippines as a result of the Mount Pinatubo eruption in 1991, as the efforts put into evacuating, of which there were 65,000 people evacuated, and of protecting property before the eruption occurred, has been noted as one of the most successful hazard mitigation efforts of a large volcanic eruption ever.
Wow.
25 years from the eruption, it has said to have shown other governments around the world the importance of effective communication, as at the time of the eruption, the sort of technology that we have today wasn't around, so they couldn't supply the local population with a minute-by-minute update of what was happening. But even without all of the modern technology, they still managed to save many people's lives and reduce the overall expected damage that was thought to have come about as a result of the eruption.
Sounds like
Modern
they did
technology
good,
could help further warn people of the potential hazards. However, it is still said to be down to successful mitigation, which involves the effective communication between the scientists, public officials, and the members of the public, in which the Mount Pinatubo eruption had. From this eruption, other countries learned how to prepare efficiently, just like the Philippines did for the eruption of Mount Pinatubo. For Mount Pinatubo, there were teams of volcanologists from the USGS and the Philippine Institute of Volcanology, which made pre-eruption preparations that involved objectives such as safety studies, hazard map estimates, alert level reminders, and
Measuring
unrest trend
earthquakes.
monitoring. This can help to emphasize the importance of collaborating with different teams, helping to save hundreds of lives. Any damage that did occur as a result of the eruption, the Filipinos have showed complete utter resilience in rehabilitation
Yes.
and reconstruction programs.
Absolutely.
For example, the lahars were quarried out and sold off as construction material. They were also turned into handicrafts or souvenirs to help further benefit the tourism industry. Finally, Mount Pinatubo has become a popular eco-tourism destination, with tourists especially interested in climbing, hiking or kayaking. This is helping to create further revenue and allowing
National
the government
park
to
now.
invest in modern technology to help further prepare in the event of another eruption occurring.
Well, that's the end of the video, and I learned a lot. I learned a ton from it, and it looks like they did a very good job at preventing death. You know, they had a little warning. They evacuated people around it. There was people that died, but in any disaster, there's going to be people that died. You just got to limit it. And it affected everything in the Philippines. It affected the economy. It affected how they grew food because you couldn't grow food in that area. It affected education because the schools were gone. It affected like disease spreading, you know. It affected everything. It left people homeless. And it's just another, you know, we're doing a lot of reactions on the Philippines because Philippines is a big part of my life. And they've been through so much, whether it be World War II, massive, like the strongest typhoon that's ever hit land. You got volcanoes, you know, and yet the Filipino people always rise up through the ashes, through the chaos, and they look forward and succeed and keep moving on, and their nation keeps getting better and better and better and better and better, you know. And it's awesome. It's building character. It's building character, building strong minds, and it's just awesome, you know. It's awesome that they get through this. That Filipino people get through these things. It ain't awesome that these things happen. That's terrible. That's terrible, terrible, terrible. But you live in a paradise, you know. You have rainforest. You have all the natural beauty, and when you live in natural beauty, unfortunately, you're usually around a volcano or around an ocean where a typhoon can come in or a tsunami can come in, you know, earthquakes. But it's inspiring to see that people can work together, save lives, and get through stuff. It's an older video because, you know, it happened a long time ago, so the quality The video wasn't that great, but the people talking about it, well, it gave me a lot of knowledge, increased my mind power, and you can learn from each and everything we react to, you know. Hopefully you're learning right along with me. But those are my thoughts, those are my feelings. What's your thoughts? What's your feelings? Comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what I should be reacting to down below in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Let's get to that 50,000 subscribers. You gonna help me? Help me. Anyway, share the video, like the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.